Okay, but which amino acid works best for ADHD treatment? And do things like CoQ10 or ashwagandha, is there any evidence for those either? Should I be taking my daily supplement with caffeine to make it work better for ADHD? These are all questions that I've been asked by students in like late night 2 a.m. emails. Which supplements work best? And it makes sense because first, there are a lot of problems with ADHD medications. So generics don't work as well. There are just standard shortages that appear all the time. So it's hard to get your hands on pharmaceutical medication. And we also have a problem that we just kind of don't trust the pharmaceutical industry. In some cases, that makes sense. We've seen some sketchy things from the pharmaceutical industry. But in a lot of cases, supplements are not tested for things like safety and efficacy. We don't even know what's in the bottle and if what's in the bottle actually works. But should you believe any of the testimonials about things like mushrooms helping with ADHD treatments? So, which ones should you believe? Today, I, Dr. Suave, a drug scientist, am going to go through the actual scientific evidence on supplements. This is the amino acids version. Y'all were asking me specifically about some of the other supplements out there, so here is your answer to that. So I'll start with the amino acids. So the reason that we started looking into the amino acids is because there's some earlier studies saying that like amino acid levels were low in children who had ADHD. And so the original hypothesis is like, okay, well, if you see low levels of those amino acids, those could be linked to some of the ADHD symptoms. And therefore, if we just increase those levels, we might actually decrease those symptoms. Which is like the standard that we've been using in basically all pharmaceutical industries. We're like, oh, we see low serotonin with people with depression. So what about if we just boost that serotonin? Same with dopamine and ADHD. Now, here's the thing. We just started down this track, but recent evidence suggests that not a lot of amino acids are actually that low in children with ADHD. So I'll start with L-lysine because this has kind of an added link that might suggest that it could be implicated in ADHD. And so what we see is that, yes, there were suggestions that lysine levels were low in people with ADHD, but we also see that if you give drugs like Vyvanse, which is like everyone's new favorite ADHD medication, what it does is it then kind of becomes both dextroamphetamine and also L-lysine. So that drug seems to work really well for a lot of people with ADHD. So they're like, is there something to this L-lysine by itself? Short answer here is maybe. Like, it seems to work well in combination with other ADHD medications. So that might explain why it works so well with like the dextroamphetamine that you see with Vyvanse. But by itself, it doesn't seem to work that well. What about L-theanine? So what we actually see with this is that once again, it might work better in combinations with other things, but in this case, not with other ADHD medications, but with caffeine. Now, there was one study that said that by itself, it had kind of mixed effects on sleep. So it seemed to actually help with sleep quality, but didn't make people fall asleep faster, and that can help with some of the symptoms of ADHD too, but it doesn't have a ton of evidence for it. It's kind of sad because this would be kind of easy for most people to actually get a hold of. Like, it's found in things like mushrooms, it's found in things like different types of teas, so it would be a really easy thing to combine with other ADHD treatments. And in tea, it is already combined with caffeine, so it might actually be more beneficial in teas versus something like mushrooms. Now let's move to the amino acids, which don't have a lot of evidence there, like even less than the ones that I've just been talking about. With tryptophan, there was one study that suggested that it worked with children with ADHD, but that's basically it. Phenylalanine seemed to work well with adults, but not children, and you saw that for L-tyrosine as well. And then I also love the like BS AI summaries here. It was like, L-tyrosine might interact with ADHD medications. Yep, that's kind of the point of some of these medications. You want it to help increase the efficacy of ADHD medication. So let's move on to some things that actually have a decent amount of evidence. So there was a pretty good study on CoQ10, and it was looking to see if CoQ10 could actually increase the effects of atomoxetine. It did. It actually seemed to decrease symptoms by double. I saw some people like pop up in the comments saying like, yeah, I swear by CoQ10, like it actually does things for me. And the evidence kind of suggests that this one might be promising. Saffron weirdly has some good evidence as a like conjunctive treatment for ADHD too. And it could potentially work by itself, so saffron might be more important than we think. And we see some mixed effects of things like passion flower too. Now, people like to bring up taurine all the time, and what we see is that taurine has some good preclinical evidence, meaning that there's some good studies that have been done in ADHD models of rats, which are weirdly spontaneously hypertensive rats, and taurine seems to decrease the symptoms of the combined subtype of ADHD in the ADHD rats. And aniracetam seems to have similar effects to that too, but again, those are all in rats, so we don't even have any human studies there. Now, in the realm of people recommend this, but we have literally zero evidence on this, we have ashwagandha, Creatine and rhodiola. Like, there's just no studies out there on that. And let me just say in general, once again, these studies on the supplements are terrible quality. So let me kind of give you a little peek into the bad studies that I've been reading. I'm pretty sure that a lot of the newer reviews out there since like 2021 are just written by AI and in a bad way. So here is a sentence that I am fairly certain was fully written by AI. Our investigation delved into the profound influence of L-tyrosine. This is like early AI, back when they didn't realize that nobody really used the word delved except for AI. Another study used the phrase, thus they have been shown to be effective in curing ADHD, as though people use the term curing ADHD in scientific research. You hear me say that I'm going to cure anything? Yeah, no, distrust me immediately. Even their titles are terrible. Like, there's a title that says Safety and Efficacy of Taurine as an add-on treatment for tics in youngsters. What is the scientific term youngsters? It's like using the word kiddo in an abstract. Like, I am not the most professional person out there, but yeah, that's a bit too unserious even for me. So in general, most of these claims that are out there are not really supported by anything. We have some claims like CoQ10 might actually be something, but we just don't have enough research on it. And the research that we have is kind of shoddy. So talk to your doctor about what you're thinking. Talk to them if you want to try a new supplement, but also recognize that like supplements are not really regulated here in the US. Now in the EU, apparently they have a relatively good regulation system, but they're not regulated here in the US. So you think that because you can buy them over the counter, that means that they're safer. That's not true. They have not really been tested for safety and efficacy. And yes, there are like independent review boards, but that's all that they are, independent review boards. Like, an independent review board is not necessarily great oversight, and it's definitely not looking into things like the efficacy of if this is going to help with ADHD or not. And also importantly, if it's safe to combine with ADHD treatments, because a lot of these are suggested to be used in that way. But right now we have limited evidence and kind of unverified safety, but this is something we definitely need to be looking into more in the future.